we'll start by outlining our cookie. Once again, you just go right around the edge with your icing. And then we'll set it to the side and let it dry for about 5 minutes. Now we're ready to fill the cookie. We're going to be using our wet on wet technique, and we're also going to be using a toothpick. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fill the cookie all the way around and inside, making sure that we cover all of our cookie. And then we'll use our toothpick to bring it right up to the edge to make sure that we're covering every bit of our cookie. And then once again, if you notice that you have little air pockets, just take a little bit of icing, move it right into those, and cover up all your edges. Okay, since we're doing the wet on wet technique, now we want to move right into adding our white icing. And what I'm doing is I'm just placing dots all around the outside edge of the cookie. And this is where you get to be creative. You can put as many or as few dots as you want. And then what makes this a fun technique is that while it's all still wet, I'm going to drag my toothpick through the white dots to make hearts. So I just start here and just start dragging around. Turn my cookie and drag. Again, want to make sure it's still wet. And there's your cookie. Now we're ready to decorate our next cookie, and we're going to outline just like we've done before. Take our icing and run it just right along the edge. I'm going to leave the top part without icing because I'm going to add a detail to that a little bit later. After letting our outline dry for about 5 minutes, we're going to be using a technique called wet on wet. And I'm just going around. I'm not going all the way to the edge because again, I'm going to use my toothpick to fill that in. And I fill in my icing. And then I'm going to use my toothpick and I'm going to drag it to the sides. And I'm turning my cookie while I'm doing it. And I'm just going to fill the edges. And my toothpick is my tool to help me get the icing all the way to the edge and fill in the cookie. As I'm filling this cookie in, sometimes your icing bag may get a little bit of air in it and you get holes in the icing. So all you have to do with that is take a little bit of icing and put it in that hole and cover it up. And now we're ready to add our red. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to add one line at a time. So I'm going to come back in. And I'm going to add a white line at the top. And the reason why this is a wet on wet technique is because we're doing all of this while the cookie is still wet. We did not wait for that green to dry. Now I'm going to come in with my silver just at the very top. And I'm just going to add a little detail right here at the top. And all I'm going to do is just put some icing up here, like that. I'm going to use my toothpick again. And the toothpick just helps me move the icing where I want it to be. So I'll put a little bit there, turn my cookie, move it down. until I get that icing exactly where I want it. And we're done. Okay, for our next cookie, once again, we're going to start out by outlining. And I'm outlining the sweater, but I'm leaving some space to come back and add some details at the end. So I'm not outlining all the way to every edge of the cookie. So I'm just going around the edge. And again, I left some space at the top and the bottoms to add some details a little bit later. Now we'll let our cookie dry for about 5 minutes. We're ready to fill the cookie with icing. And we're just going to put our icing inside our outline. Once that's done, we're going to come back with our toothpick and we're going to pull it to the edges, just like we've done before, to make sure that we get the icing everywhere we want it. Turning our cookie as we go to help us control the icing. Now this is going to be another wet on wet technique. So when I'm finished with this part, I won't let my white dry because I'll be adding some more color to the white. Okay, now I'm going to start with green, and I'm just going to make a line right across the sweater. And then I'm going to skip some space and I'm going to draw another green. Okay, now I'll take my red and do the same thing. Put some red right across here and right across here. Now I don't want this to dry, so I have to work kind of fast. Then I'm going to take my toothpick, and I have a paper towel because I'm also going to wipe my toothpick off. I'm just going to start at the top and drag down. Wipe my toothpick off, drag it again. Wipe the toothpick off, drag it again. Wipe the toothpick off and drag it again. Sometimes you might get a little speck of something that you don't want in there, so you just use your toothpick, pull it out, smooth that out, and there we go. Now we're ready to add our details at the bottom. Put some red in here on the edge of my sweater, and then some red down here. And again, always use your toothpick to put that icing where you want it. And now, just because I want to get a little bit creative, I'm going to use green on my other sleeve. Just a little bit of green there. A little bit of green up here. Use my toothpick to move my icing to the edge where I want it to go. Move it a little bit there.